Welcome to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast, brought to you by Phoenix Boats. Now, here are your hosts, Alabama Bass Trail Program Director, Kay Donaldson.
Welcome into the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. I'm Kay Donaldson, the director of the Alabama Bass Trail, and your host for this week's podcast. And this is the podcast for the week of June the 10th, or pre-Alabama Bass Trail South Division Angler of the Year Derby Week, if you would like to say. We're headed down to Lake Eufala, the big bass capital of the world, and looking for a huge tournament down there. The points race is tight. It's going to be a lot of fun to get down there and settle this year. It's hard to believe that it's already here, the fifth and final stop of the Alabama Bass Trail South Division at Lake Eufala. I know when we announced the schedule, several guys took their pen and circled that on the calendar. So we're excited about that. The points race, you get outside that top two, and it's a little scattered. So it's going to be interesting to see how it breaks down. Dunkin Darien Craig, they're going to join me in just a little bit to talk about their first year on the Alabama Bass Trail, being on the side of it with the on-the-water analyst, interviewing, emceeing, all the things. They have both fished the Alabama Bass Trail, but this is their first year being on the talent side. Maybe that was kind of a shot. I didn't really mean it as a shot, but it kind of came out as a shot. So we'll get to talk to them. We'll talk about their expectations coming into the year, how being on this side of things has met those expectations, not met those expectations, maybe exceeded those expectations. We'll talk to them in just a little bit. We're also going to talk about who their top picks are for the Lake Eufala tournament and how they see the Angler of the Year going down. So we'll get to them in just a little bit. There's a couple things I want to talk about before we do that. I do want to do a little housekeeping note about the Alabama Bass Trail 100 registration. As we're recording this on Monday, June the 10th, there are just a little under 12 hours left for the guys to get registered for the 2025 season during priority registration. It will open to the public on June the 11th at 5:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. We have made several posts out on social media that tells you what you need to register for that event. I want to express to you the importance of having a cell phone number attached as well as a valid email address. And please don't put your email address down there for you and your partner. The information that we send out is important that both of you receive that. All of your tax reporting information, the rules acknowledgments, and things like that. We need 2 valid email addresses, so please make sure that you do that. Also, make sure we have good cell phone numbers as we communicate through text message and email for the most part. So if you haven't seen that, you can go to Alabama Bass Trail 100 series on Facebook. Everything that you need to get registered is there, so please make sure that you take a look at that. Also, this week in the state of Alabama, the Bassmaster Elite Series makes its first stop for 2024 at my home lake, Wheeler Lake in Decatur, Alabama, out at Ingalls Harbor. First day of competition is scheduled for June the 13th. And looking at the weather, I don't think they're going to have a hard time pulling that off. No storms in the immediate forecast, so looks like they'll get to fish. Unfortunately, I'll be leaving sometime Wednesday or Thursday, headed down to Lake Eufala for our event, so I won't be here unless I get back on Sunday to be able to watch some of the competition on those days. But welcome to Decatur, Alabama, to Wheeler Lake and beautiful Ingalls Harbor, to all of the people participating and attending the Bassmaster Elite Series tournament there. I know it'll be a fun time, and I expect them to really catch them here, actually. So looking forward to that, and hopefully I'll be in town when they travel down to Coleman to Smith Lake, and I'll get to see some of my friends and stuff there. But been seeing a lot of trucks and boats riding around the city of Decatur over the past couple of days. So it's going to be fun time this week, and congratulations to the city of Decatur, the Decatur-Morgan County Tourism Board, for bringing them into Decatur. It's going to be a fun time, and they should catch a lot of fish. I'm looking forward to that. I may actually ask Darian and Luke if they have picks for that tournament as well. So it's going to be a fun time, just talking about the Alabama Bass Trail 100, talking about the final tournament of the Alabama Bass Trail South Division this year. Registration is right around the corner for that. August 1st through the 15th or 1st through the 14th is priority registration for the regular series. And then the 15th of August opens up for new teams and typically sells out within 15 to 20 minutes. The phone calls, the texts, the emails, the Facebook messages are starting to roll in pretty consistently asking about that. So if you're planning on registering, please make sure that you are paying attention to the Facebook pages and all of the things. We'll have the pictures of all of that. I'll probably be doing a live later on to just kind of talk about that. You do have two options of how you register. So please make sure that if you're interested in doing that, that you're checking out all of our social media pages. If you didn't get to watch this weekend, the Smith Lake tournament was on Bally Sports Southeast. And if you are one of the Comcast members and you no longer have Bally Sports Southeast, you can always go to our YouTube page, Alabama Bass Trail TV, and click on videos, and you'll be able to see all of the tournaments, the TV shows that have aired this year so far. You can see it there. So that's an inconvenience right now with Bally. They are in contract negotiations with Comcast. There's absolutely nothing we can do about it. We are inconvenienced as well because we're missing out on those households. We have expressed our concern with them, and hopefully they'll get a contract nailed down soon. But if you are missing them due to the fact that you are a Comcast member and you don't have Bally Sports right now, you can go to Alabama Bass Trail TV on YouTube and click on videos, and you'll be able to see all of the videos from the TV shows up until the Smith Lake event. So don't get behind on all the action out on the Alabama Bass Trail. So it's been a fun year, and I look forward to talking with Darien and Luke here in just a little bit about that, about their first year, also getting some of their picks that we have for this season. I do want to send out a just thoughts and prayers to our great friend Ben Cole. Ben is our drone extraordinaire, creates all of our highlight videos. Ben had a little skin cancer surgery this past week. He's doing well. He's in great spirits. Looking forward to having him down at Lake Eufala. But he did have a little bit of a scare, and so he's doing well, a new dad and all that. So we're glad he's doing well too. So please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. He is like family to us. So we're going to take a short break, let you hear from our sponsors. We'll get Luke and Darien in here with us, talk about their first year on the Alabama Bass Trail from this side of the coin. And then we'll get into Lake Eufala. We'll talk about their picks, their dark horse for this event, and also how they see the Angler of the Year points shaking down. So it's going to be a fun time. Y'all stay tuned, and we'll be back on the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Y'all stay tuned.
Things you let me see. Things you let me see.
Welcome back to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. And as I promised in the first segment, we have your MC, the voice of the Alabama Bass Trail, Mr. Luke Duncan, and then Mr. Darien Craig, your on-the-water analyst, off-stage interviewer, I guess, rocking the dad shirt. And Luke went, pearl button on us, Darien.
Yeah.
Well,
Luke.
this is business casual. So there you go.
Okay. Okay.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
I
Fun
don't
time.
know if you've got a tool, a hammer on your hip, or if you've got a money clip. I can't tell either one.
Both.
Both, son.
Depend on the
Both,
side.
son.
Depend on the side. The money clip's a little light. That's why we're out here packing these orders.
I get it. Well, hey, we're glad to have orders to pack. Hey, money clips getting tight on the Alabama Bass Trail too. It's registration time. Time to get that money in.
That's right.
It's registration time for the ABT 100. That started. It's been a busy week already for the Alabama Bass Trail, and it's just Monday. But we want to talk a little bit before we get started about Lake Eufala. That is the story of the week, of course, being the Angler of the Year tournament. But let's talk a little bit about, y'all are getting really close to wrapping up your first full regular season as talent on the Alabama Bass Trail. And I said this in the first part of it. And I said, now they're talent on the Alabama Bass Trail. And I felt kind of like it was a jab at your fishing talent. I didn't mean it that way, but it kind of came out that way.
Understand
That's
we
understood.
deserve the jab.
We deserve it.
We deserve it. Darien did weigh a dirty 30. I'd
He
like to
did,
point that
and
out.
win.
And a big win. I got to give him props on that. I don't give him props on a lot. That is incredible. And Miss K, I had 2 top 10s in the ABT 100 career that I had. So you know what? Take that, people at home.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, we deserve the jabs.
Yeah, there we go. Everything else, jab us up. Everything else.
Jab us up. It's fine.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Thick
I know.
skin.
Thinking back to last fall when I first started talking to you guys about this, we knew Robbie was going to be exiting to do some other things and started talking to y'all. I really thought that the chemistry and everything could work really well. And I think it has, and I think it shows in our numbers and all of that. But talk a little bit, Luke, I'll let you start as the first full year on the Alabama Bass Trail from this side of the coin.
Well, first of all, I can't believe it's almost over. We've just got a couple more events to go here. And it has been everything I wanted it to be, plus some. I think that what I didn't expect, it was bittersweet. I'm a Robbie Floyd fan. We talked about that going in. I've always respected Robbie a ton. So filling those shoes was something that I, was nervous about. And I don't get nervous, but that first event, I was like, all right, here we go. And what it's been is to see for me the overwhelming feeling of like being welcomed, not only by the anglers but by your team and that family feel that the ABT is. We've got group text going on all the time with everybody cutting up, even in between events when you're not seeing everybody, and it's it really like it feels like I've been there since the beginning. That's the coolest thing for me. And I've just put that the chemistry between Darien and Jason and I, like we've just had an awesome time so far. I hate that it's winding down, to be honest.
I was thinking that at the last one, like I wish you could reset it and go back and do all of them again.
Yeah.
Because the length of time between we have, whatever, 2 or 3 weeks in between a couple of events, but we're about to have months, 7 months or whatever it's going to be between. That's going to be weird. But I think one thing that I would say that was a little bit unexpected was how close of a bond you'll get with the team very quickly. And it's difficult for people who are watching the show. It's difficult to do our job in that everything's on a little bit of a delay. You got a couple 2-3 second delay with everyone. You're listening your ear to multiple people and trying to deliver a message, watch what's going on and break it down. Also, from time to time, having a conversation with anglers on the water, because you pull up beside these guys and they want to just like genuinely want to start talking. Hey man, how y'all doing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got Luke doing an interview in my ear with someone 10 miles up the lake. It's awkward. And so there's a really balancing thing of like making it work. And I wish we could almost film a behind the scenes of our job, because I think that would be funny to see the background of it. But I think the camaraderie that we have between our team now, the ABT staff, and like Luke said, like the other thing is for me especially too is how many people are anglers. How many of the anglers like will walk up specifically with Y'all Sweet Tea, they'll ask me Y'all Sweet Tea stuff all the time. Like they're really caring about us, and it just like when you're on the site from that morning when you wake up at way too early in the morning until we leave at 5-6 o'clock. It just feels like everybody's one thing. You know what I mean? Like everyone really cares. I got random people who I might have not met in person yet, but we're friends on Facebook, come up and ask, hey man, it's good to see you. The Y'all Sweet Tea, something about Y'all Sweet Tea, or saw you on the water or something. Like I think that part for me is really cool personally. But yeah, it's been awesome. I've really, really enjoyed it. And my success rate is so much better at doing coverage on the water than it is fishing tournaments.
I was kind of wondering where he was going with that, Luke. I'm going to be real honest. I didn't know he was going.
I had a fail rate on fishing tournaments. I never got paid. Me and Houston won one tournament, and I pennied that sucker as long as it would go. I ran out of money on that one quick.
Well, I will say it's good for me to hear that y'all love the way the camaraderie is with the team, because to me that is special. And I've never worked for Bass. I've never worked for MLF. I've never worked for Bass Team Champs. I've never worked for them. But I seem to think that our team, from the morning guys who are parking you to the boat check guys to John and Daniel on stage to Kenny and Ben and Brenton and all the people making the live and everything happen, it does feel like a big family. And I think we are genuinely concerned about, wishing Luke well on his new adventure, wishing, sending prayers your way when you weren't feeling well the other day, Darren. I just think that the team itself is, they just feel like family. And I've always wanted the Alabama Bass Trail to feel that way. And I think it does.
I'll say like one thing for me, I have destroyed every part of Brenton's boat that you could destroy. Right? He has every reason to hate me, and he was the first person to text me that day and ask how I was feeling. Yeah. I got sick and had to leave the last tournament, and he's the first person to text me, "How you doing, buddy?" And I was like, "He cares. This guy cares," because I destroyed his boat.
And you have wreaked havoc really on the entire operation, boats included. But I'll say that no matter, and this is the behind the scenes stuff that people don't see, like Darian's talking about, like you're in our ear yelling, go cover this guy, and then there's an interview going on in this ear, and all the behind the scenes things of the actual production. But what I want people to see is when things go wrong, and I'm using air quotes if you're listening to this, because not a lot goes wrong with the ABT, but I'm saying if there's a problem, whether it's parking or somebody's got a boat issue or there's a problem operationally, dude, you never see people stressed. The team handles it, and most of the time, I would say the anglers or the viewers at home never know there's anything going on because the crew is so tight-knit. Nobody's screaming at each other. Nobody's pointing fingers. Like, I love that so much because I think that's rare. And Darien running his business now, I'm running one myself and been involved in a lot of businesses over the years. Like, that's rare that people just don't crack under pressure. And the ABT team they just don't from the top to the bottom. From Kay, like, you don't, like, even if you're frustrated, like, we get through it. And I think it's awesome how well they handle things.
One of the things that happened this year was when a camera guy didn't show up, and I immediately get on the phone and ask Daniel to go home, put the batteries back in his boat, and bring the boat for Darien to use during live.
Yeah.
And it worked. I've said this story, and y'all have just met Kai recently, but last year we were at Neely Henry, and the pull cord on one of our machines that pumps the water from the lake into the tanks, the pull cord broke. And I look over and I'm talking to someone, and all of a sudden I see Kai start cutting his bracelet. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" It was parachute cord bracelet. And he goes, "We got to fix this pump," or whatever it's called. And y'all can drag me in the comments if you want to, that I don't know what the heck that thing's called. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "We got to fix that. We need a cord." And he literally cut his own parachute cord bracelet and fixed that machine so that it would pump water from Neely Henry into our tanks. And I said then, those are the people I want in my foxhole. When the shit goes down, those are the people that I want to surround myself with, that just think that MacGyver type thinking, and also the customer service type thinking, because that is what sets us apart. I think is those guys get there in the morning. Are they glad to be there at 2:30 in the morning? No. Are any of us glad to be there at 2:30 in the morning? No. But they just embrace it, and they are cutting up at 6 o'clock when they're tearing down at night, as they were at 2:30 when they got there.
That's what I was going to say is just real quick is that I think people don't realize too is there's just a lot of laughing and cutting up that goes on. And from the time we get there way too early, like Darian said, to the time we end at night, like there's no change of attitude. I feel like ever, like everybody's always really upbeat. And I'll never go to get the truck to leave. It's like Darian talking about Britton texting him, checking on him. But I'll never go to get the truck to leave at the end of a long, long, long day for everybody, that everybody's not like hugging necks and see you next time. Like it is, that's been the thing I've been most grateful for this year for sure. And I do feel like the anglers feel that, I think that obviously, I think they keep coming back year after year after year after year. And there's a reason it's successful. is obviously, I think they feel that energy as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've the way I explain it to them is, we're a lot like a hotel in the standpoint that there are a lot of choices out there. We all basically have the same thing. You have a 35-inch TV or whatever, but our service, and I think the way our team genuinely cares about our anglers and knows that they have a choice and wants us to be their first choice, and then everyone fill in their calendar with the other things. That's the goal for us. And if we fall short of that, I'm willing to listen to it, and certainly willing to correct things that need to be correcting. But that's on both sides too. I mean, I remember 2 years ago we had an angler take one of our trackers on a key fob and throw it at our employee on the checkoff boat. He no longer fishes the Alabama Bass Trail. We don't. My guys aren't paid enough to take that kind of crap. They're not going to take that kind of crap. So you stay at home. We're not going to do that. Our guys are going to treat you with utmost respect. And I expect that from our anglers as well. So
unless you want to throw something at Darien, we're good with that. We accept that.
I'm quick, buddy. I'll catch it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have caught it at Weiss, son.
No.
He was not catching much of anything at Weiss, but a time to go.
Something.
I caught it. I caught the bug. I got a bandito bug is what I caught.
It was interesting to say the least. I did. I want to ask y'all, I mean, coming into this year, the roles that you took, were they what you expected? More than what you expected?
I'll say yes, just because I got to sample it last year. Like me and Luke both got to sample it. You did one last year, right? Yeah. So
two MCing and 3 doing live coverage last
year. Yeah, so I did 2 total last year, and definitely got a sampling of it. So I think I did 3. I did Neely, Eufaula, Weiss last year. So got a good sample of it. I would say the very first one that I did last year, I was terrified, and I realized how tough it is. Like specifically calling that many names at blast off, very difficult to do. Props to every person who's ever had to do it. Once you get past 30, I don't care if you're fishing a club tournament or what. Once you get to 30, that's tough. And then weigh-ins is just tough. Like the hardest thing about weigh-ins, I want to talk for Luke because I had to do this recently. The hardest thing about weigh-ins is you don't know every single name on the list. There's 500 names or whatever, 450, whatever it is. So also multiple people have similar names. So like you read a name off of this little bitty thing on the screen, they're already coming up. A lot of people out there, cameras on, bam, you got fish, bam, 3 or 4 people over here. It's your buddy. You just called his name, but I read the name off the screen and didn't even realize it's your buddy. And then you don't get to see that because you're looking at the weight. Bam, your buddy's been here the whole time. Like there's just so much happening. And props.
You're just running a derby. You just running a derby.
Props to Luke.
Yeah, that's it.
Say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is organized chaos at its finest on that weigh-in stage. And if you ask me at the end of a weigh-in, what did you say up there? Do you remember when you said such and such? The only thing I remember that I said all year was, "Would you like to weigh that dog?" That's the only thing that I remember from this season that I actually said. But for me, like I hope that I have succeeded this year, and Darien, I understand what you're saying, because man, it does happen fast sometimes, and then we'll have lulls. But I want everybody to have an opportunity to talk if they want to talk, within reason, because we do have 450 folks to move across the stage. But you try to give everybody their time, man. They take time out of their lives and money to come be with us at the ABT. But I would say the only thing that I still don't get used to, and Darien called it, is calling boat numbers. No matter how many times I do it, I always feel like, dang, this is really taking a long time. Even when it's 100, I'm like,
and you start getting a little sweaty.
Yeah, and for me, it's always now, especially with the time being really early. You and Jason are already out there. So I've got you guys. This is what the folks at home don't hear. But I've got you guys in my ear. But I remember specific, like Alabama River, you're like, Luke Duncan, if you can hear me, you're on boat 37. And I just saw a 3-pounder get caught on a frog. And I got that going on. And I'm trying to pronounce names that I can't pronounce that I've butchered all year long, and keep a pace so Kay doesn't kill me. Because at the first meeting of the year, Jordan, this is when I felt this immense pressure. When she goes, 18 to 20 minutes, we'll have you out of here. And I was like, buddy, I can't call 225 names in 18 to 20 minutes. And I tried to, though. I'm like, John, is this a good pace? John, is this a good pace? Because I don't want to like call them too fast, but you don't want to call them too slow. So I think that would be the only thing that even this far in, I don't know that I have even anywhere close to mastered or expected it to be that. It's intense, like every morning, man. Like, because I've been that dude sitting there gripping the steering wheel, about to rip it off. You've got so many thoughts in your head. You're trying to beat people to the spot. Oh my gosh, did Darien found what I found? I'm so ready for my boat number. And I never want to be the guy that somebody out there at boat 22 is going, why is it taking him so long to get to us? You know, you don't want to be that guy. And I don't want Kay sitting in the trailer going, why is it taking him so long to get to boat 22?
And sometimes I have, sometimes I have time to do that. Most of the time I don't. Most of the time I've got 1,000 things
most
going
of the time,
on.
We do talk after most of the time. I'm like, hey, was that a good pace? Was that a good time? And all that. And I tried to bounce that, like I said, off of John, but that would be the only thing though. Okay. I knew I got enough of a sample of it last year to know kind of what I was in for. And for me, it's just I think that they're just really long days. I think that's something that maybe people don't appreciate about the entire team. And I'm not even including myself in that, because we get there a couple hours after everybody's been there at 2:30 in the morning. But they are just really, really, really long days. You're up early. We work late. We get a little bit of a break during the day to go get some lunch, and then it's right back. You got to be on. And then most of the time we all have a pretty good drive home afterward. Right. So it's a very long day.
That's what I can't, most people don't understand that. And I have people all the time go, why do you get there so early? What do you need to get there so early for? They have very little idea of what it takes to put all those backpacks together, make sure everybody gets there right. Tracking devices, make sure that we've got everybody loaded in the system, that they're responding the way they're supposed to. And just really in case there is an issue, like a boat driver not showing up, that I'm prepared for things like that. I have a hard time walking away and just doing things from a distance. So that's why I have to feel like I need to be there that early to make sure everybody else is okay. Is there, Darren, you mentioned at Smith, and I know that Matt, I think, filled in for Jason during that time. You mentioned watching Wesley Sams and Craig Daniels, people you grew up hearing about, watching, fishing against all the time, being able to watch them pick apart areas that you've seen on that lake before. But how cool is it to watch it from this side and look at, I guess, the skill and the knowledge that these anglers have out on the Alabama Bass Trail?
I think that's probably the coolest, because I mean, I've got an awesome list of people I've got to watch on their home lake this year. That's like, people would pay to be able to see this stuff. And I think the difference is, no offense to some other people, but there's a lot of people who do our job that don't fish. Like, you can hear it in their voice, the way they talk about fishing. They don't fish. They're just really good at on the water coverage. And even some like Bassmaster and MLF guys, like the top of the top guys, some of them just don't fish. They're just really good at MCing. So to be able to be an angler and do it is really cool. Just, you get to see, like, they're some of them have swagger. That the crazy thing is, you can tell the good ones and the bad ones is, I say bad. They're the elite from the regular guy, the Wesley Sams, the Mark McKeggs, the top anglers from the regular Alabama Bass Trail guys, is I can tell it in one cast, literally in one cast. Those guys cast perfectly. Everything is exactly where it's supposed to be at. The guys who've won a bunch of tournaments, the Mitch and Candler. Last year I watched Mitch fish, and it was the prettiest thing I've ever seen. And I was like, that's why he wins a lot, is because he fishes perfectly. And Mitch fished a stretch of grass last year I fished my whole life. And he fished it unbearably the slowest thing I've ever seen in my life with a frog. And I was like, that's why he wins. because no one fishes that. No one in this whole tournament right now is fishing that slow, but he like made all these perfect casts, and I mean they've won on Neely, and that everybody else you can't catch them with a trolling motor. They're smoking down this grass line, and just little things. Guys have little tricks that make them, and yeah, seeing Craig and Wesley was that was pretty cool.
Well, I know Matt mentioned Donna and William Lynn, Spencer and Donna Lynn, I guess is how they go by it, and how much money that they had taken from him fishing at Smith Lake. And that's a husband-wife team that has done really well on the Alabama Bass Trail, qualify year after year after year on the championship. And Matt said the same thing. Watching them actually fish was so cool to him. He's been an Elite Series guy. He's a BPT guy, and you hear him talk about those people out on the trail. I know, Luke, you've gotten to do the same with some of the guys that we followed this year on the trail.
Oh yeah, but I think for me the moment on live, I know at Smith, going back that tournament in particular, Jimmy Mason, Brent Crow, got to cover them doing some kind of sneaky, really cool stuff that I know about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you hear them talk about it because they're pretty open about things a lot of times. But it was really cool to see them and how they're trying to protect, in a sense, these secrets that they've earned over the years, right? And how they approach things, but then their willingness also to teach at the same time, as long as, and I try to respect that. I know Darian and Jason do as well, just because these guys have earned this, this status in the state and regionally all over the country. But for me, the moment on live that I would circle as my favorite was Josh Chappell, Paul Davis, and getting that front row seat to that win at Logan, and literally front row seat. They're like, come on in. I could have netted their fish. They allowed me to get so close, and they were catching them every other cast for a few minutes. But then for them, then you're invested. And I know Darien feels the same way. Then you're invested in a team. You're like,
you want to follow
dude, do they
them
have a shot? Yeah, you want to follow them all day. And so anytime their tracker would get close to me that day, I would run over there. Even if we didn't do a live hit, I'm like, dude, did you upgrade? Like, you're so invested in that team, like you're in the boat. But for them to come out on top, like, that's my favorite thing, to go from the teams we cover on the water to then the actual weigh-in and go through that range of emotions is for sure my favorite thing about the job, because you get to see all of it. Another moment this year that will always stick with me is that same Logan Martin tournament. And I know he's going through it right now. He's a dear friend of all of ours and a hero, but Terry Tucker, when Terry and Jeremy finished second at Logan, the disappointment on Terry's face, that emotion was one that I'll never forget. I will never. That man has won so many things, but he wanted that one so bad, and they came up just short. But you could feel it, like it was palpable. Their disappointment, him and Jeremy both. It was the same too. I will say, back to Smith, Jordan Wiggins, and Steve Jake Hughes. Same thing. He thought he had that one, and the visible and just palpable, just crushed. They thought there's no way we don't have it. They had done the math in their head. They knew what they needed. And when the scale settled, it's just like this deflation. You wouldn't wish it on anybody.
Right.
Like you wouldn't, but to be there to experience that, those highs and lows, man, is at their expense, is very cool.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
You get to see all of it.
I asked Wiggins when he came off the stage. I said, "Well, man, it's disappointing, but a second place finish at ABT is an awesome day." He said, "No." That's like, that was his answer. No.
Yeah.
They wanted it.
These guys are so competitive, because you mentioned getting to watch Josh Chappell, Paul Davis in their win, and as close as you are and as intimate as that setting felt. They had the same thing happen to them at Lake Martin a couple years ago, probably the most narrow second place finish in all of Alabama Bass Trail history. So they've had that same feeling that Terry Tucker and Jeremy Green have. So they can understand that because they've experienced themselves. But we saw Terry and Jeremy have the highest of high when they won the championship at Weiss Lake, just the year before. But you talk about seeing Scott Canterbury lose a 6-pounder, and Darian's, I don't want to be the guy.
I'm glad I wasn't closer.
Yeah. You don't want to be that guy right there.
Then, that's an awkward moment when we talk about that on live. But it's our job to ask Canterbury in the 100s. He's one of the 5 guys that's like the top that we have, need to go cover, because he's improving everything. So every time you see Canterbury's name, and I was actually scheduled to follow him that day and pull up, man, how Canterbury's in there. Let's go back there. I'm pumped up to get back there. And when you run into that, I was like, I hit that shoulder motor back. I was like, no, cuz.
No, dog. I'm out. Well, you got to see it with Amanda and Buck too. I mean, they went through and lost a couple big ones. So you got to see that. But you've also got to see Anthony Goggins and CJ Knight absolutely smash them, high five, and all the emotion that goes through that. So it's been a really cool year. We have seen some losses and some wins that, you know, like you mentioned, Josh Chappell, Paul Davis, a lot of people really surprised that this is their first win on the Alabama Bass Trail. They've had a very successful career in the trail, but to have that first win, and of course that's their home pond, so that had to be kind of special for them as well. But a cool year.
I'll add one more thing is Luke touched on it, but he didn't really get into detail. When he was talking about Brent and Jimmy Mason, specifically, and even going a little bit deeper into that, they were doing something specific with a fishing technique that the majority of the people in that tournament were not doing. Like they were fishing some kind of way different. The guys who were at the top, the morning that I watched Craig and Wesley, the morning at Logan Martin, when Mark McKeag and Tim pulled into an area where other guys started on, they literally waited on those guys to leave. And I was filming the whole thing. All of those guys throwing the same thing. Mark and Tim never caught a fish. Mark and Tim come to the exact same spot, throwing something way different, but very sneaky, and straight smashed them. And touching on that is a little bit of our difficult part of our job is we have a live camera on men who have, like said, earned their stripes to know this secret, to not get it put on TV, but it's our job to put it on TV. So there's a respect thing too. And I hope the guys feel it. I hope the guys know it. I think probably they do, but I don't want to say that I'm lying, but there's been times where I might describe a bait a little bit differently than what the real bait actually is, because they could be throwing, just say a crankbait and a spinnerbait. They could be throwing a crankbait or a spinnerbait covering the exact same water depth, targeting the same fish, but you might blame, I'm not saying they're cranking, throwing a square bill, but they're throwing a moving bait down this riprap.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you're kind of disguising which moving bait it is that they're throwing. That's a difficult part for us to do. But if the guys who are those guys are watching or not, if you're any angler, like, please understand, we notice what's sneaky, and that's one good thing about having me and Luke and Jason is understanding what's sneaky and not blowing that up, because there's been times this year, and the Neely Henry tournament was one of them that was the biggest of this moment I've had, where I pulled up and watched someone doing something that is not supposed to be being done, and he was steadily smashing them, and I just drifted along in the current and said, we'll see y'all later. And I think they do notice that, because you can see them putting baits up and stuff, but it's crazy. You're fishing against the best guys. There's a lot of people fishing these lakes. 225 on Neely is a squeeze. So you have to be doing little things that are sneaky. And anyhow, hope the guys who are fishing realize me and Luke have your back on that, and Jason have your back on that. Like, if you don't want it to be shown,
well, it's the utmost respect. You and I talk about that off camera all the time. Like, we're like school kids. We're like, dude, can you believe we get to do this? You know, get to cover the anglers that we get to cover, that a lot of which are our friends, but also people that a lot of veteran anglers that we just have this crazy amount of respect for. But I respect all 225 teams in each division and the 100 in the ABT 100s. And I know how hard they all work to get to where they're at. So when you notice something, I mean, I think about Zeke and Ethan at the ABT 100 on Logan, the snowball there, like, only ones really doing what they were doing, lots of boats in the area, and they were just smashing. And you almost have this feeling like we're exposing this a little bit. But I will say it also depends on the angler, because Zeke and Ethan were like, come on in. This is what we're doing. You know, so it does kind of depend on the team. And I know, you know, that, like, I kind of feel it out. Like, all right, can we show it? And I try to ask, like, hey guys, where do we need to set up? Where does the boat need to be? Do you mind if we cover you for a little bit? And I never have any issues, but in that moment, you felt like this was kind of a sneaky deal that they were doing at Logan. And then they were like, dude, come on. Like, get in here, show it. You're like, what? All right. and then we had a front row seat for that too. So it's a really fun position to be in. There's no doubt.
Well, my next question, and then we'll get kind of on into the Eufaula event and Angler of the Year. Hardest event so far this year. I'm guessing it was the 100 at Logan Martin, just simply because of the conditions, but maybe I'm wrong.
Or Pickwick. Pickwick for me was tough.
Pickwick.
It was so windy, and
Yep.
Luke's boat had problems. We had the boat problems that morning. Luke's boat had trolling motor problems, and Luke was in the horseshoe, so he couldn't move around. But I was in a smaller boat, and and everyone would just left us. So we
Yep.
were like kind of moseying around in Florence, and it was brutal. It was brutal. And I think it was worse because we weren't as prepared. Like at the Snow Bowl, we were just bundled up and knew what was coming. So you were like kind of ready for it.
Yeah, I would say Pickwick was probably the roughest day. Just you felt like your head had been in a vice a little bit, just because I had technical issues. I felt like I couldn't bring what I needed to, because that's home for me.
Mhm.
And so I was frustrated that I couldn't run around like I wanted to. And then I would say that event was frustrating from the weather. I was colder there than I was at the Snow Bowl. And then another one that was a challenge for me, where if it could go wrong, it did go wrong, was the Alabama River at Prattville, because I couldn't get cell service, and I ran this way forever and couldn't find it, and couldn't find anglers, and you're running all around. Then I ran back this way and couldn't find it. And then we had some technical issues camera. It was just one of those days. And I had an AirPod fly out. I had my camera guy lost a hat. Like there was just to start the morning. My camera op, Jared, he brand new life jacket. He's like, "Hey, do you have a life jacket?" "Yeah, buddy, I got a brand new one right here for you." He went to put the CO2 cartridge in it, and I'm walking to the back of the boat to unstrap it here, and he blew up a life jacket before we ever put the boat in the water. It was just that day. And we went to do the bush light, the roundup there at the end, and they're like, "We can't see you. We can't see you. Your camera's not working." I went, "We're going to the ramp." They're not going to see us. We're just going before the boat sinks at this point.
Before we're on the SS Minnow.
There's just cicadas everywhere. It was just a plague.
That was insane. That was insane.
Yeah, it was a wild day.
Yeah.
It was a wild day.
Well, it's been a great year. Our numbers are way, way up. I don't know if that's just because people are wanting to see the chaos that is the Luke, Darren, Jason, and Kay show, or what it is. The fishing's been great. The coverage has been great. We've really been able to cover some of those teams that came out successful. We've had several new winners on the Alabama Bass Trail. I'm thinking Craig Grubbs, Matthew Ferguson as new winners on the Alabama Bass Trail, Philip Harrell, Clint Gilbertson here at Wheeler, new winners, of course, Josh Chappell, Paul Davis. So we've had new winners on the Alabama Bass Trail. One of the other things that we covered at Wheeler that I thought made really, really good live, and Darian, of course, got to cover them, was Damian Willis and Tyler Kiker in a very obvious place. But they didn't really have any traffic there. I mean, I thought it was kind of odd that they didn't have traffic, but we did get to see them have a clinic there on Wheeler too. That was fun to watch.
And I think from where I need to look at, me and Luke need to have a chat about this, but specifically where they were sitting at, I think the tournament was won within 100 yards of one direction. Was it first,
second, and third
place on that same
first, second, third, yeah.
bar.
Yeah.
And I think it was within 100 yards down, I believe, from where those guys were. Like it's crazy. There was so many fish in that area.
Far.
And it wasn't where people, I think, thought it would be one. I think everybody thought it would be one out on the flats. So that's interesting. Those guys still set third in the Angler of the Year points tied for second. I'm sorry, for the Angler of the Year points in the North. So fun season all the way around, North, South, and 100s.
Off subject, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but at the Wheeler tournament, I forget who it was. That morning I saw him back in his boat in the water. I said, "Man, they bite." He said, "They were biting, but the flats got blown out, so we're scrapping them. We're not even going to the flats." They had such a good practice on the flats that he said they thought they could win, and they didn't. They just ran down the lake to start the tournament. How crazy is that they knew, just by knowing the lake, the wind on the flats that day said it would have it all blowed out, and blowed out is how he actually said it.
Yeah.
And they was blowed out, and then he just scrapped the whole thing. That's cool. Yeah. Like that's like takes a good angler and like
Well,
scrap to be able to do that.
it's one of the things that Zeke Gossett and Ethan King said in last week's podcast. Time on the water. And when you spend that kind of time on the water and you've had year after year after year of experience at certain lakes, you know how those things are going to affect, how the west wind or an east wind or a north wind, how all that's going to affect that part of the lake or the area of the lake that you like to fish. And that's what I say about the Alabama Bass Trail. I mean, time on the water, Noah Cole Godwin, you see it. Wesley Gore, you see it. I mean, these guys coming up. And there's a team in the South that I'm interested in. They will have a camera on them, I believe, is they're sitting in 17th place, Connor and Caleb Miller. Only high school team that, I mean, realistically has a chance to make it inside that top 9 to be the first high school team to ever go to the Bass Team Championship through the Alabama Bass Trail. May have done it in some other trails, but those kids have caught them. They're sitting 17th out of 225 teams. High school kids. So
Unbelievable.
Boys are snatchers.
Unbelievable.
they are. And the Croson kids are doing really well too. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do it. Eufaula, no doubt they're going to put their time in. Eufaula, Darien, you covered Eufaula for us last year, 45,000 acres of alligator infested bass fishing waters down there. June tournament sets up to be a brush pile kind of thing, live scope kind of set up for this event. What are your thoughts? Luke, you've been there covering a tournament. You've been there fishing a tournament. What's your thoughts going into Eufaula for a June 15th tournament?
I think with 225, your thought is always rub rail to rub rail, little bump and grind, little, where will frustrations be? Boat number is very important. Obviously, I think June tournaments, we've got 2 back-to-back. Gunnersville right after this, where boat number will most likely be very important for the outcome of the event and for Angler of the Year at times. So I think this will be, Eufaula's an incredible fishery. It's very versatile. You do catch a lot of fish shallow. There's a lot of vegetation. There's ways to catch them, but it will be one off the bank, whether that's a ledge school or a brush pile deal. Will be, we'll find out Saturday, but I think it's 100% going to be off the bank. And look, there's some big bags getting caught down there right now. So I think we're going to see some heavyweight bouts go down for sure Saturday.
Well, I mean, not surprising to anyone. We have 40% chance of storms, 30% chance on Friday, 40% chance on Saturday. Hopefully that'll be late Friday night going into Saturday and we'll be clear for the rest of the day. But 40% chance of storms. Darien, what's your thoughts going into Saturday at Eufaula?
I think about the same thing. Obviously, Eufaula is infamous for the water level change especially around big storms. They drop the bottom out of it or raise the water overnight a lot. So with that update, I don't know, that maybe that changes some things. One time we fished a high school tournament there and the fish were in the grass really well. They dropped the bottom out of the lake overnight, no warning, like you didn't know what was going to happen. It's 2 foot low now, or they dropped it 2 feet and changes the whole lake. So I don't know, maybe that might add a little suspense. I don't think that's going to change probably the offshore fish too much, but if people found fish in the grass, something like that might play. Last year when we covered Eufaula tournament, I stayed right there, whatever that creek is where we take off from, but we went under the bridge and there was some guys that I think they didn't finish in second or third, and they just flipped the grass under that bridge the whole day. And that was one of the funnest tournaments I had, because similar thing, I just trolled beside them the whole entire day and watched them catch every single fish. It was so much fun. And anyhow, cool event. I think Luke's right. It'll definitely one off for sure. But
well, one of the things that I want to bring up, and this is like even hard to even talk about, because in the first 11 years of the Alabama Bass Trail, Chris Rutland, Kobe Card never outside of the top 9 in the Angler of the Year points. Most of the time, not outside that 3 or 4 range. He's currently sitting in 21st place going into the last tournament of the year. So I don't even really know how to talk about that because it's never happened before. Is it just a bad year for them? Is there just a new wave of guys that are coming up?
There's some young guns coming around with that minnow.
Well, looking, I mean,
no.
Teams not usually in that top 9. Let's talk about it. Noah Cole Godwin. We know they spend tons of time on the water. Fairly new team to Alabama Bass Trail. Tyler Malone, Cade Law sitting in 9th. Jason Tomlin, Justin Foster. I mean, Adamson and Lloyd, they're basically like well known on the Alabama Bass Trail now. John Kellett, Zeke Gossett sitting in 12th. Lucas Lindsay, Brendan Holt, fairly new team to the Alabama Bass Trail. Connor and Caleb Miller, new teams on the Alabama Bass Trail. Chase and Chad Schroeder, Justin Mott, Randall Hamilton. Looking at that, some new names inside that. I mean, I certainly don't think Chris and Kobe lost it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not throwing that out there, but just different times going into the last event in the South.
Yeah. I'll just speak on, I had a lot of these days, but in a one-day tournament, if you have any kind of mistake, be it boat number, be it a 1 or 2 missed fish in a day, your whole season can go to that, which 24th place is still incredible. I never finished
21st. I was going to say
21st.
21 out of 225.
Yeah.
21
I
out
never
of 225.
finished 21st ever.
Isn't that funny, though, that to me, that's like
hold on. They're
rating for performance because they're always in that top 9.
But they're mad about it. I have no doubt.
Oh, no doubt.
No
doubt.
They're mad. They're mad about
So
21st. I mean, which sends them to the championship.
Their worst finish this year is they missed 1 check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
no,
that's
but I
crazy.
mean, it's in a one-day tournament. I think that all the time, though. Like, that's a difficult thing and a non-difficult thing about a one-day tournament is, you know, it works in your favor both ways. If you smash them, you can win you can almost get lucky and win because you can really hit them hard. But I bet if it was a 2-day series, if every ABT was a 2-day tournament, I bet they'd be slid up a little bit closer to that first place because
Guarantee
they would adjust somehow on that second day if it was a 2-day thing.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. Before we start picking people for the tournament and talk about the Angler of the Year, CJ Knight, Anthony Goggins leading by 5 points over Rob Lee, Steve Winslet, who traditionally have not done well at Eufaula, like averaging that 30 to 54 place there. Narrow lead for them. Then you get down to third place. And again, I think I said it's like 38 points. So going to be hard for somebody to come out of 6th, 7th, 8th and take over AOY. But going to be interesting watching CJ and Anthony and Rob and Lee first thing on Saturday morning for sure.
Yeah,
it is a tight race. And I love both teams. Like, they're great guys. Yeah. They're fun to cover. They're fun to talk to. And I talked to Rob and Steve on stage at the 100. And I'm like, all right, look, pass-wise, we got this little tournament coming up at Eufaula, and I think they want some revenge, some redemption on Eufaula. So yeah. I think they're gonna give it heck down there.
Yeah. It knocked them out of the points lead 2 years ago when Brian Stifler, Wesley Gore won, knocked them out of the points lead then. They've got an opportunity for some redemption. Anthony Goggins, CJ Knight got a lot of history down there on Eufaula as well as Rob and Steve. Going to be real fun going into that. But there's some other guys in this event that may not have a chance at Angler of the Year, but certainly want that $15,000 check. So let's talk a little bit about Luke. Who wants to go first with your 5 picks?
I got 5.
Oh, Darian, welcome to the show, Darian. This is what we do on the Alabama Bass Trail. How many episodes of this have you listened to and watched?
I'm taking an idea he has not listened to our podcast.
He doesn't know what Kay and I do. Yeah.
All right, Luke. I was going to go.
I was going to go with my one. I was going to go with my one lock.
Okay, go ahead.
Darian,
go ahead and shoot your one lock.
AlabamaBassTrail.com, Darren. That's where you can find the standings and all that if you need to research.
Listen to him.
.org.
.org.
Dang. Ruined a good joke.
I'm saying I'm just going with the easiest lock, and I'm putting my money on it. Shane Powell wins. He wins tournaments, and I'm going Shane Powell. I'm going Shane Powell.
He don't even know who his partner is. He just went Shane Powell straight out. He didn't even know Tim Fox is on that team too. He's on my list too. He's on my list too. Go ahead, Luke. Let me see.
Yeah. So my 5, I'm going Chapel Davis. I don't think they're not done winning. I can feel that. Shane Powell, Tim Fox, of course. They won a big event last weekend, big bag. They won a couple ABTs down there. Will they make it a third? I think this time of year is obvious. I mean, it's obvious. Like, that's their deal. Again, comes down to boat numbers sometimes, comes down to be able to get your fish to fire when you're there, all that. But Shane Powell, Tim Fox, definitely the team to watch. Chris Rutland, Kobe Carton in my top 5 because they have a lot of success on Eufaula. They're having this awful, terrible, no good year in 21st place in the standings. So, and I know they're not happy about it. So it would not surprise me at all to see them win. I've got Noah and Cole Godwin on my list too. They've got some Eufaula success, and I think they've been, obviously they're in the top 5 in the points, but they've not made a lot of noise. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they've been
Kind of
kind
under
of
the
quiet
radar.
as far as this year. So will they do it here? And then Anthony Goggins, CJ Knight, I'm picking them to win because I don't think you can have this kind of year and not get really close to one. So it wouldn't shock me. And then my dark horse, John Kellett, Zeke Gossett, because listen, if you ain't paying attention to right now to what that boy with the last name of Gossett's doing in every tournament he gets in, it's ugly right now. Okay. So wouldn't shock me at all. He's on a heck of a roll right now.
We're not far off, Luke. You and I have a lot of the same teams. Of course, I picked Shane Powell, Tim Fox. I don't think you can go there in June. They just have too many spots. And I think that's going to be key at Eufaula this time. I think you're going to have to hit multiple spots to bring the bag in, at least a mid-20s, high 20s bag. CJ Knight, Anthony Goggins, I just think their year is so good that I think, it may be time for that. Josh Chappell, Paul Davis, I have them in my top 5. Noah and Cole Godwin, I have in my 5. Those guys want to be in that top 9. That's what they've said to me all year long. That's their goal, is to get in the top 9. Yes, they'd like to win one. And they have done that. They've done it twice in one year. So, but I think they want to be in that top 9. They want to experience that Bass Team Championship, which, I can't really blame them there. A team that I don't pick often, but I sometimes have in my top when I go to Eufaula, Jay Grogan, Ryan Ingram. They've not won an event on the Alabama Bass Trail. They haven't won a Eufaula event. They are always in that top 10, 15-ish, but I certainly have them in my list. My dark horse is a team we don't talk a whole bunch about. They've done really well in the Alabama Bass Trail. Matt Hedrick, Matt McClung. They're from down that area. They fish at Eufaula a lot. I just think that they may have some sneaky stuff that we don't know about, but I have them as my dark horse. Darren, you want to pick a dark horse? You got a dark horse sitting out there that?
I was going to say that I like Luke's picks with CJ Knight and squad. I think they're obviously on fire. I'm going to say the Godwin boys are going to swim a big one up and catch 4 big ones offshore. That's my dark horse.
That's your dark horse. Okay.
Because they are sneakier live scopers than what you think. And
$1,000,000%. $1,000,000%.
I didn't know that. So at the Jordan tournament, I just figured they swim a jig the whole tournament. They didn't even leave this area, which ain't near grass, the whole tournament. And they never looked up the whole day. He's like, we just only live scope the whole tournament. So I'm saying that my dark horse, Noah Cole.
I don't dislike that. Looking at the top 9, the only team in that top 9 that hasn't had stellar performance that I can talk about. I don't know much about Tyler, Malone, Cadelaw. Mark McKeag, Tim Hurst don't typically have great luck at Eufaula. They typically keep themselves in it at Eufaula, but they're not the ones you're going to see in that top 10 all the time. So everybody else, I think, pretty much has quite a bit of experience down on that body of water. So I think it's going to be a fun tournament on Saturday. I'm looking forward to it. I hope it doesn't storm all day long. It's just, could we just have one? One lady asked me the other day at the weigh-in, she goes, do you ever just have a tournament where it doesn't rain? No.
No.
That'll be way too fun.
Sometimes it snows, lady.
Sometimes it hails. Sometimes the wind blows 9,000 miles an hour. I mean, I don't even know what to wish for anymore. Just safety is all that I know to wish for. So, but I'm looking forward to Eufaula. We'll have to do this again for Lake Guntersville because Darien knows a little bit about Guntersville.
I'm bringing the trophy with me.
Are you going to bring the trophy with you?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go to the office and see if I can dig out the check. Because I have
He's
the
gonna
check with
mount it.
Darien and
If you have the
Houston's
check,
name. I have it somewhere. I've sent you a picture. I have it somewhere.
We're giving out checks nowadays, and me and Houston had ours just got put in the dang basement down there at the ABT
It's
house.
somewhere. I have to find it. I will go to the office and try to find it before we do next week's. I'll put it
There's a
up on the
spot
wall
right
or
there
something.
for it.
Yeah, you got a spot right there
up
for it.
For it.
You know, people, to me, anytime you run a business, both of you guys do that, you have to look at what your expenses are. I mean, you've got to cover expenses. You want to get paid. I want to get paid. Everybody wants to get paid. And that was a reason why we never really gave the checks away, is because we're just trying to manage expenses. We were a young company, but seeing how much the anglers appreciate having that, and then they put it up in their man cave or their office or whatever they do. Those checks are about $40 a piece, a set of them, about $40. But the way they want that is just so cool. So now that's what we do. Whatever 14 times 40 is what we do. So
do you think you might get me one for like 4th place at Wadawi, a big cardboard check with me and little Trey? And then I think it was like 8th or 9th at Neely Henry. I would really appreciate that. I love a big cardboard check. What about I'll have my own trophy made from ABT.
You'll have your own
participation trophy.
But you mentioned that a couple of times, Darien, and it is really cool to see how, especially when they've not won one before, and they're like, you mean I got to take it home with me? And they're really excited about that. So it is, just one of the new things that we do for the winners on the Alabama Bass Trail. So it's kind of fun things there. So, all right. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Eufaula, points race, anything coming up they need to know about on Eufaula?
Yes, I want to take over here for just a second, Kay, and I want to look right to this camera in all sincerity and say, little Dickie, if you're out there, buddy, we need you at Lake Point State Park. We will protect you from the gators. We need to send this year off. Don't swim. We're not going to let you swim, but we need little Dickie back on the ABT South Stage. James, I know his owner. Bring little Dickie out. Bring him to Lake Point State Park. I know they're late guys. It's a little bit of a drive. Give little Dickie the weekend he deserves. Bring him down.
Yeah.
I was really worried about where that was going when he said he was going to look straight into the camera. And then I got to thinking, it's the South Division. He's got to be talking about little Dickie. He's got to be talking about little Dickie. So
I miss my dog.
That had to be one of the moments this year on the Alabama Bass Trail for sure.
This year, moment of my life. That is right up there with my children being born. They can hear me right now, by the way.
They're so glad. They're so glad.
They're so proud of
They're
Dad.
so proud. They're so proud. Well,
love you guys.
I am excited about getting to Eufaula. It is one of the prettiest state parks in the state park system in the state of Alabama. The fishery is phenomenal. The hospitality there is great. Looking forward to. I'm just going to tell y'all, that Donut King down there does not play.
Trouble.
Dude,
It's trouble.
Darren, I'm telling you, that place does not play. It is so good. So good. I'm glad it's closed before we get started, and it's usually closed, like at 2. So I usually don't ever get by there, but someday before Saturday, I will go to the Donut King. It is a must see. It
is that.
It's fantastic. All right, guys. Well, y'all have a great day. Thanks for your commentary. I look forward to seeing you down at Lake Eufala this weekend for the 5th and final stop of the Alabama Bass Trail South Division presented by Phoenix Boats. Let's close it out with a bang. Maybe we'll see a dirty 30. Maybe we'll see a dirty 30.
Might see a dirty 30.
All right, guys, we're going to take a break.
See y'all.
We'll be back in just a little bit with the wrap up of the podcast here presented by Phoenix Boats. Y'all stay tuned.
Research and development is more than just time in the shop for us. It's time out here. Sweating the details. Making boats that work as well in the real world as they do on paper. From our R&D team to our anglers on the water, we have the knowledge and passion to build you the finest fishing platform in the world.
Welcome back to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats, the third and final segment for this week's podcast. I mean, I'm just trying to wrap things up and get things back kind of settled. When you have Luke and Darien, you never know where the conversation is going to go, as you can probably see from some of our topics that we covered. You never know where it's going to go. And hopefully Jim DeRamus will bring Little Dicky back to the stage, and Luke can have his time with Little Dicky is a little wiener dog that was at Logan Martin, and we weighed him. We weighed over 16 pounds. So that has been one of the topics of discussion within our group text. Would Little Dicky make a return to the Alabama Bass Trail? So one thing I did want to talk about, I kind of mentioned it in the last segment, things to do, see, eat, all the things. Of course, Lake Point State Park, one of the crowning jewels in the state park system. I do know that they have some of the rooms are going to be down for renovation. That's just part of them reinvesting in the park. So some of the rooms will be down, but Lake Point State Park, great state park. Looking forward to being there for 3 or 4 days for this event. But I also want to talk about some of the restaurants. Of course, Cajun Corner, it's a staple at Lake Eufala. You have to go there. It's one of the busiest places. The food's great. The service is great. The atmosphere is fun. Just a really cool place that I like to go. And then Jalisco is just across the street, and that's the Mexican restaurant. Love that place. One of my favorite places. And then Sam's Kitchen and Grill. You'll miss it if you're not looking for it. If you're leaving the state park headed into town, it's going to be on your right. Does not look like your typical restaurant, but we've eaten there. The food is fantastic. The service was great. They're always glad to see anglers coming in for the fishing tournament. So look forward to being there. Of course, Mayor Jack Tibbs will be on hand. We'll see him throughout the week. He's a fisherman. He loves to see bass tournaments come into his town, and they've got a lot of things going on. New hotel going up downtown. They're renovating that building. I can't wait to get down there to see what all has taken place at Eufaula since we've been gone. So, but I mentioned it, the Donut King. If you're there, go by the Donut King. Tell them you're there with Alabama Bass Trail. Those donuts, and I only do the glazed. I'm not a chocolate donut person. I'm not a sprinkle person. I only do regular glazed donuts. Chef's kiss. 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10. They are the best. I love to sit there and watch them make them. So good. So good. So make sure that you go by the Donut King there at Lake Eufala. It's right on Main Street, or whatever the Main Street is there. I think it's called Main Street, actually. So, all right. I am going to sign off a little bit differently because I no longer have a UAB baseball player in my house. But if you are keeping up with the Alabama Bass Trail on Valley Sports Southeast, next up, Logan Martin Lake. Your winners, Josh Chappell, Paul Davis, get their win. You'll get to see it all go down on Valley Sports Southeast. If you're a Comcast member and you're not getting Valley Sports right now, tune in to Alabama Bass Trail TV on YouTube. It's posted there just after it airs on Valley Sports, so you can always watch it there. But Logan Martin Lake is up next, and it'll run for 2 weekends straight. So make sure that you catch it there on Valley Sports Southeast or on Alabama Bass Trail TV. But that does it for this week's show. I do hope you will subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcasting app. All of the comments and things we can see. So please make sure to let us know if you have a topic you would like for us to cover, if you have someone you would like for us to interview. We'd be happy to do that. If it's within the realm of what we can do, we'll be glad to do that. But please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite podcasting app. For our guest, Mr. Luke Duncan, the voice of the Alabama Bass Trail, Mr. Darien Craig, your offstage interview guy, your on-the-water analyst guy, and your y'all sweet tea guy. Thank you for watching or listening to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. We do hope to see you out in the great state of Alabama, either in town or on the water. Either would be great. Good luck and safety to all the Bass Master Elite guys fishing here at Wheeler Lake this week. Best of luck to those guys. Be sure to check us out Saturday morning at Lake Eufala, starting around 5:30 a.m. Will be 5 hours of live coverage on the water, and then back with 2.5 hours of weigh-in there at Lake Point State Park. We hope to see you soon in the great state of Alabama. God bless, good fishing, and as Big Daddy would always say, get outdoors. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. To learn more about the Alabama Bass Trail, make sure and visit alabamabasstrail.org.